The first words came like a whisper of wind through brittle leaves. Danger is coming. Yet no one listened. A crowd of villagers gathered at the edge of the square, laughing, trading, moving on with their day. The tree stood alone in the center, tall, scarred, and ancient. Its bark held the weight of centuries. Its branches stretched like tired arms toward a sky heavy with storm clouds. It had spoken before, but never had its warning carried such urgency. Still, the villagers scoffed, muttering about foolish superstition. They walked away, leaving silence behind. But silence does not erase truth. The tree had seen what they had not. It carried memories older than any man alive, and it knew the land was restless. The tree was not just wood and leaves, it was a witness. Through countless years, it had watched lives bloom and crumble around its roots. Children had once tied ribbons to its branches. Soldiers had carved initials into its bark before leaving for wars they would never return from. Mothers had wept beneath its shade. Fathers had rested their weary bodies against its trunk after long days in the fields. Generations came and went, but the tree endured. Now, though, the weight of time pressed deeper. Beneath the soil, its roots trembled, aware of something shifting. The earth had grown tense. The winds carried whispers of fire. And the river nearby, usually calm, swelled with unusual force. The tree, with its ancient wisdom, spoke because it had to. Yet the villagers turned away. They mocked the voice that rustled through its branches. They called it the madness of old age, the echo of hollow wood. They told themselves trees did not speak. But one man listened. Elias, a weathered veteran, stood near the back of the crowd. His face carried scars not only of battle, but of time. He had once served far beyond the borders of the village, in wars where honor was scarce and survival was not guaranteed. He had buried comrades beneath foreign soil, promising he would carry their memory like a flame in his chest. That weight made him different from the others. When the tree's voice reached his ears, he did not laugh. He did not scoff. He felt a chill creep into his bones, the same chill he had known on nights when danger approached silently, unseen but certain. The villagers brushed past him. A group of younger men shoved him lightly as they passed, muttering that he was too broken from his years of service to know truth from folly. He said nothing. He simply stood, listening, his eyes fixed on the trembling branches. He carried his silence like a shield, for Elias knew sometimes silence holds more strength than all the noise in the world. Elias had always been an outsider, even among his own people. When he returned from war, there were no parades, no celebrations. Instead, there was quiet distance, as if his wounds and haunted eyes reminded the villagers of truths they preferred to forget. He worked the soil alone, ate alone, and walked the paths of the village with little notice. Yet within him lived a quiet fire, a dignity forged in sacrifice. He had given everything to protect strangers, to defend ideals greater than himself. Now, though, his warnings were dismissed just as the trees were. He felt a kinship with the tree, both scarred, both dismissed, both carrying wisdom no one wished to hear. And so, when the tree whispered again, its bark groaning, its leaves shuddering as though in pain, Elias pressed a hand against its trunk. He closed his eyes and listened. The voice was faint, woven through the rustle of branches. The ground will break. The fire will come. Protect them, though they do not hear you. Injustice grew thicker than the storm clouds above. The villagers laughed at Elias as they had at the tree. Mothers pulled their children close, warning them not to linger near the mad old soldier. Merchants shook their heads, muttering that fearmongers always returned to stir unrest. The village elder, stern and unbending, declared before all, "This is a season like any other. Do not give ear to trees or broken men. We live by reason, not superstition." And so order seemed restored. But Elias knew order built on denial could collapse in a single breath. The days that followed carried unease. The river swelled higher, biting into its banks. The air grew heavy with heat, even at night. Birds fled the forest, leaving an eerie quiet. The tree whispered again and again, but no one came to listen, no one except Elias. He began preparing, though no one asked him to. He reinforced his small home at the edge of the fields, storing food and water, digging shallow trenches to divert what floodwaters might come. He prayed in silence, not for himself, but for those who mocked him, for the children who played near the river's edge, for the families who trusted blindly in safety that was slipping away. The disrespect escalated. The more Elias worked, the more they mocked him. Young men laughed openly, tossing stones toward his trenches. They called him broken, paranoid, useless. His silence only fueled their cruelty, but silence was his weapon. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He simply worked, steady and unshaken, his movements calm and deliberate. One boy, no older than 12, watched from afar. He had heard the tree as well, though he dared not admit it. When Elias lifted his eyes, their gazes met. The boy said nothing, but he lingered near the tree in secret, listening. In his heart, he knew the truth. Wisdom does not always wear the face we expect. And then the day came. The sky cracked open with lightning. Winds tore through the village like angry hands. The river roared, its waters spilling with violent force, devouring soil and stone. The villagers screamed, scattering in panic. The elder who had spoken so firmly now stumbled in terror as water rushed into the square. The tree swayed, groaning as its roots strained against the surging flood. Its voice carried louder than ever before. "Run to the high ground! Leave now! Do not delay!" But the villagers froze, stunned by disbelief. They had spent so long denying the voice that now, when it mattered most, they could not act. But Elias did. He shouted not with words of his own, but by echoing the tree's warning. He pointed toward the ridge beyond the fields, urging them upward. His voice carried authority born of sacrifice. For the first time, they did not laugh. Fear had stripped away their pride. One by one, they followed. Mothers carrying children. Fathers gripping trembling hands. The elderly leaning on others for strength. The floodwaters swallowed homes, tore apart bridges, and dragged memories into the depths. But those who followed Elias reached the ridge in time. They stood together, shivering beneath sheets of rain, watching their village drown. And there, in the midst of ruin, the truth became undeniable. The tree stood half submerged, its roots torn, its branches broken. Yet even as the waters raged, it leaned as though bowing, as if giving its final breath to protect those who had once mocked it. When dawn came, the storm broke. The river receded, leaving behind silence heavier than any flood. The village lay in ruins, but the people lived. They lived because of a tree they had ignored, and a man they had disrespected. Elias walked among the survivors quietly. No one mocked him now. Eyes once filled with scorn now carried shame, gratitude, and something deeper, respect. The elder approached him, trembling, and lowered his head. Words failed. Elias only nodded. Silence was enough, for silence had been his strength all along. The boy who had listened in secret stepped forward and whispered for all to hear. The tree was right. He was right. We should have listened. And in that moment, the tree's final lesson rooted deep within them. Generations later, when new homes rose from the soil and laughter returned to the square, the villagers planted a young sapling at the heart of their rebuilt home. They called it the talking tree, not because it whispered through leaves, but because it carried a story that would never be forgotten. Carved into stone at its base were words Elias had once spoken quietly to himself, words that became the truth of their survival. Silent strength is never weakness. Wisdom often wears the face of those you dismiss. And beneath those words, a final line, etched for all to see. Every voice deserves to be heard.